This is the 10X rule. The only difference between success and failure, the 10X rule is a discipline. Success is your duty.
Grant Cardone, he's an international sales expert.
Okay, there's a lot in this book, guys. I suggest you get it.
It's not 10 by itself, it's with the X, and the X is big.
I've been on Cardone University for 5 months now and already generated over 165,000 US dollars.
I went from $0 to almost $5 million in net worth.
Hello and welcome to the 10X Automotive Weekly. My name is Jeff Bounds and I'm the head of automotive with Grant Cardone. And I'm super excited today to have a special guest on the show, Amit from Roadster. Amit is a senior executive with Roadster. And for those of you that are not familiar with the company, you need to be. Roadster is definitely, without a doubt, a major disruptor inside of the automotive industry and has taken digital retailing to the next level. So today I'm going to be talking to Amit about the new normal for customers and how they engage online. So with that, Amit, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Thanks, Jeff. Appreciate it. My name is Amit Chandarana. As Jeff said, I'm with Roadster. And we appreciate you allowing us to spend some time with you and your audience. I think, first and foremost, we need to address the fact that we hope that you, your family, all your listeners and the audience are safe and sound. I think sometimes we forget that we're dealing with a global pandemic that's in combination with an economic crisis. So hopefully everyone is all in well. And again, we appreciate you having us aboard. As we talked about a little earlier, maybe just to give a little refresher as to who Roadster is. Some might not be aware of it, but Roadster is an omni-channel commerce platform, or maybe a little bit more easier defined as a digital retailing platform. And we've always been focused on the two-sided coin, where we are creating technology that makes it easier not only for car dealers to be able to sell vehicles really in an efficient manner, but allows customers to buy products in a comfortable, efficient manner. And we've always prided ourselves on being able to do that with this omni-channel commerce platform. So again, really stoked to be with you and happy to unpack this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, you and I spent some time together at the most recent NADA when we were in Vegas. And you guys have been on my radar for quite some time because in just watching the automotive industry and where it's going, between now and the next 3 to 5 years, through this current situation that we're in today, it's becoming more forefront every single day in the minds of the automotive dealers. And just some of the information that you and I have been able to discuss has really blown my mind. So I just love today for you to share with our audience. And we have a large audience of automotive folks on here, from sales professionals to owners to general managers. And we also have a lot of consumers that are just interested in what's going on inside of the automotive industry. And then also, the consumer shopping experience. So I want everybody to take a look at this today and listen to what Amit has to say and just keep an open mind, because this is without a doubt the future. So let's go ahead and chat a little bit about the life of Roadster before COVID-19 and the current situation today.
Yeah, it seems like the whole world's kind of drawn a line in the sand depending on where this started for you. But we basically imagined a pin at March 15th, because it really seemed like that's when we had to take the most decisive action as a company. I'll kind of level up a little bit, right? We've been a high quality, high touch point digital retailing platform, commerce platform. We've always prided ourselves on understanding that digital retailing in and of itself has probably more to do with change management than it has to do with any sort of technology, right? We're a commerce platform. We certainly stay in our lane. And so we always spent a tremendous amount of effort, 4 to 6 weeks, to get a dealership up and running, to provide them this seamless technology that allows a customer to go in store and online back and forth without downloading technology, without any friction. And it's sort of the way that we all kind of use the Starbucks app, right? I mean, being able to use a technology to save 2 minutes. If you don't believe that it's worth it, go look at the millions of downloads and how many times you and I have probably used that in the last few weeks. So prior to March 15th, we prided ourselves on that. We spent, again, 4 to 6 weeks to be able to get a dealership up and live, worked on that change management. But we quickly realized, as a Silicon Valley company and one that isn't, many of our backgrounds come from the automotive industry, but there are many of us that don't. And so they are used to the pivot. They're used to iterating when needed. And so March 15th, we went to the industry and basically stated that we were going to provide our technology to dealers within a very compressed time frame. So we allowed dealers to be able to utilize this technology within 10 to 12 business days. And we shaved some of the intricacies of the product out of the training and really made the dealerships a self-serving entity. They're training themselves. We're getting ourselves fully integrated with all the platforms that are necessary, and we're handling some of the nice to haves further down the road. But we understand that there are dealers in the United States who don't have the ability to open a door. They have to be 6 to 10 feet away from people or are in a stay in place. So we wanted to give that technology to these dealers as quickly as possible. So that was the pivot that took place March 15th for us. And really the world has kind of gone upside down from that point forward. So I think that just gives us a line in the sand for when we've started to make decisions prior to post.
Yeah, for sure. And I think now it's more front and center than it's ever been. I mean, those of us that are watching this today, maybe we've bought our groceries online for the first time. Like Amit was saying, a lot of times we're ordering our Starbucks through an app and we're going to pick it up because everything today is all about efficiency. And the consumer experience is something today that, as technology evolves, people expect to transact in a certain way. And what Roadster is doing right now in the marketplace by creating an end-to-end platform for you to be able to transact on a vehicle with the highest level of customer experience, it's literally game-changing. So some of the statistics that we were speaking of yesterday, I'd love for you to share with the audience. And so in regards to the metrics that you're seeing in regards to the recent website activity and what orders are looking like, speak into that a little bit.
Yeah, it's a great question. So let me break this down into 3 sections, right? There are car dealer websites, and then there is Roadster's commerce platform, and then customers that are actually buying vehicles. And here's some of the data that I'll give you when it comes to websites. So clearly traffic overall, whether or not it's in person or websites, because people are dealing with the world, has gone down. Website traffic, we saw the trough, the bottom of that about April 5th. Is what we saw, and it was about 40%. So we saw a decrease of 40% of traffic to car dealer websites. The good news on that is about April 21st, it's starting to level off at a downward trend of 21%. So it was down 40%, now it's only down 21%. So we're seeing that trend increase. So moving away from just websites into commerce platforms like Roadster, we have basically seen a flat number when it comes to the number of individuals going into the commerce platform. And then from the commerce platform at early February to where we are today, that part was flat. If you look at the last couple of weeks, about April 21st, we're starting to see that go up about 17%. So it went down, it flattened, and now those individuals that are in the commerce platform have gone up 17%. And then the last takeaway on this data point is orders. These are customers who are saying, buy this car. They're customizing their deal. They're selecting F&I, they're potentially looking at accessories, maybe even their trade-in, and moving further down the funnel. That's actually been a very interesting stat. We saw that flat mid-March, around March 15th. Look at the data on April 21st, and that is up 47%. Wow. So life is taking place, right? There are people whose leases are up. They've got into a car accident. Their vehicle's just old, and they need to get rid of it. They're a first responder. Or they want to take advantage of these fantastic offers that are out there by these car companies. They're now looking for ways to be able to actually conduct that shopping. And the only ways they can do that is by having a commerce platform.
Yeah, that's actually really impactful. I would love for you to kind of elaborate on that to the audience about, get specific on that.
Yeah, Jeff, I think it's really interesting is if you're a car dealer and you're listening to this, I think we want to make sure we level set that this time that we're in is basically necessitated change. And if you go to some of these statistics that are out there on the web right now, just look at the way that people are shopping, right? People, the way they shop for items on e-commerce have moved from luggage and from video games and certain things over to needing hair dye and needing to purchase cereal and dry goods and needing to purchase hand sanitizer and weights. So because when you're forced into a position where you're not leaving your home and you know that this is what your new normal is, I think making sure that dealers realize that they do have the ability to pivot. They do have the ability to iterate, because that's what's taking place. My mom, who's in her mid 70s, was telling me that she was using Zoom to Zoom with her friends. The fact that my mom downloaded Zoom, who's never had a computer in her entire life, goes to show you that we're an adaptable being, and we will. And I think there's some awesome examples, right? I listen to a podcast in the morning called Robin Hood Snacks, and they do this really great job for 15 minutes of just breaking down stories. And this morning they talked about a story about Chipotle. We're talking about a fast casual dining restaurant and what they've done, and they've iterated and really become an e-commerce platform. They knew this 2 years down the road. Their CEO and came in and said, we don't have very many drive-throughs, so we've got to make sure people can order through an app. And really the last 30 days, all they've done is thrown gasoline on that fire and made sure that their app is the absolute best way to order a burrito, and then partner with one of the delivery companies. And then the other example, the last one I use, is because, as we talked about, sports is so missing in our life right now, was this great article on ESPN on the general manager of the Detroit Lions, right? And with the NFL draft on, the Detroit Lions general manager had his head of IT and security park a RV in his driveway. Wow. And make sure that all of the redundancies in life that were needed were there. I want to make sure that you have all of our data, you have internet backup, and then you have it backed up, because I'm not making a decision for the next 5 to 7 years of Detroit without knowing that the redundancies are in place and that you've got my back, director of IT. So humans are iterative. We're adaptable. I think car dealers and customers are certainly iterative and adaptable also.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. I'm sure that this really resonates, because, I mean, even from what I've been seeing, and then with the Papa John's example, and we see them, going around all now, and it's like they're really like embracing what they need to do for change. And I think the people that are willing to do that, not only are they going to be affected through this current situation, but it's just an eye opener, because consumers are going to continue to want to adopt this new technology. So it's really going to change the game.
Yeah. If the takeaway, if nothing else, just remind me that no one's touching my pizza.
Look, I mean, this is the time to pivot. And, in life, sometimes it takes, an event like we're experiencing today to push change forward. And I would just like you to speak into a little bit about what the advantage would be for modern retailing, both for the consumer and for the dealership. And also touch on some misnomers out there, because I know a lot of the dealers, like when we talk about this, they get like, a little uncomfortable because they think that you're trying to take over their business. And I think from my perception, what I've seen you do in the ancillary sales and experience that you've been able to develop at some of the stores that you're already working with, it's an additional sales funnel and a sales channel. So they're missing out on opportunities today because they're not offering them to the consumer set that's out there that wants to transact this way. So I'd love for you to share, first and foremost, the advantage of what Roadster would do for a dealer, and then also for all the consumers out there through their car buying process, maybe how they could check you guys out and what would be the benefit of doing digital retailing versus the traditional showroom model.
Yeah, certainly. So we're a white labeled solution, right? So people ultimately don't really buy cars through Roadster, even though our origination of the company was one that sold vehicles, and we quickly pivoted that. But we're a white labeled solution. So we license this technology to dealers so that a dealership has a Carvana-like experience. They have a Tesla-like experience. They have a Starbucks-like experience, if you will. And I think there's a double-sided value proposition to that, right? The dealers look at the advantage, I think, in 3 ways: engagement, efficiency, and customer satisfaction. So let's break those down really quickly. car dealers or the automotive industry in and of itself spends millions and billions of dollars making sure that they're providing value to end consumers, showing them the products and then showing them how they can purchase the vehicles and the products, and then allowing them the gateways to be able to go do so. But the reality is the automotive industry is still one of these industries that's been a little adverse to change, right? I don't think I'm breaking the mold there in saying that. Now, by doing that, they spend this tremendous amount of money and time and resources bringing individuals into digital environments. But those digital environments historically have not been places where you actually conduct commerce. It's been about lead generation. It's been about submitting information to an email and then getting a flat email or a phone call back. And consumers who are listening are basically thinking, that's not the way I shop for anything else in the world today. Not anymore, right? Maybe I did in 2005, maybe in 2010, but certainly not in 2020. So if you go back to those three tenets of engagement, we want consumers to engage. Consumers want to engage. That's why they download apps and use all these omni-channel tools. And I think it's better for a dealer when they spend this money and resources to have consumers come to their websites to let them engage further, rather than gating them in an environment where you show them a product, you tell them the price of the product, you provide a description of the product, and you're allowing a customer to purchase the product, for the lack of a better term, but the only thing you allow them to do on your website is submit a lead. So it's broken for both. The dealer doesn't actually get the benefit of a customer doing what they want to do, and the consumer doesn't get to do what they want to do, right? So then the second side of this is the efficiency of this. I think one of the biggest concerns that customers have during the car purchase process is not necessarily price. I think they have settled on the fact that pricing is prevalent, it's ubiquitous, it's out there, the information's available, but time, right? Being able to get back the most important thing all of us have in the world, and we can't get any more of, is time. And so by allowing a customer to be able to do things on demand, on their terms, when they've put their kids to bed and when they've got some time, it actually creates a sense of efficiency for a consumer. They can gather information, they can be prepared, they can go into a dealership and have a fruitful contextual conversation. And that terminology can be flipped the other way around for a dealer also, right? A dealer can also have a more contextual depth of a conversation, so that they're not starting the process over at step one, but rather they're taking a customer from the part of the journey where they left off. So it really satisfies both sides of that coin.
Yeah, I love that. And I think the other thing as well is when you talk about transaction time, the average transaction time of a traditional car sale versus leveraging your technology, why don't you speak into a little bit about the differences?
Yeah, we've seen some very recent data. We've always talked about this. There's a high correlation to transaction time at a dealership and the Net Promoter Score, or CSI. And again, we're interested in not only the customers being happy, but we want dealership and dealership associates to be happy. Their customer satisfaction or their Net Promoter Score is super important also. So essentially, there's a really great study out there that shows that when you spend about an hour and a half to 2 hours or more at a dealership, at that point, the satisfaction level of not only the customer, but the dealership goes down. And what we have seen lately is that digital retailing, because it allows that self-service ability for a customer, just like the Starbucks app, right? That thing shaves 2 minutes out of your day. That's pretty awesome to get those 2 minutes back. Well, the customer wants to be able to shave time out of this car purchase process and be able to move forward in this. So statistically, what we have seen is that from literally these hot off the press numbers from February just over to April, we have seen about 36 minutes shaved out of the transaction time that is taking place through the Express Storefront platform, right? And again, our platform is simply attached to the dealership or the dealership website. And all of the transactions that we've seen from February through April, we've seen 36 minutes shaved out of that. Customers got 36 minutes back. Dealership associates got 36 minutes back. And even more striking was over 50% of the transactions now over the last 6 weeks, I would say, are starting to come in under 2 hours. And again, that really starts to align with both expectations. Customers are super happy because they're not spending their time with that. Dealerships are super happy because they've just become more efficient and their customers are happy. So it's really interesting to see that. And then last but not least, how that impacts the Net Promoter Score of a dealer, right? The average automotive industry Net Promoter Score is about 39. So on a scale of -100 to +100, the score for the average car dealership is at about 39. Now, if you want to just put a benchmark or some relativity to that, Tesla sits in the low 90s, Apple sits in the upper 70s. Roadster as a platform, when we sell vehicles for our dealers, or when dealers sell vehicles through there, that net promoter score sits at about 85. So
Wow.
Again, it's not that we're trying to bask this with overarching numbers. It's just proving the fact that if you actually give customers what they wanted and dealers use technology to assist them, everyone gets pretty stoked about the whole process.
No, absolutely. And I would think in regards to scale as well. I mean, to do a car deal in 2 hours, that's like unheard of. And, again, I think especially when you go into the high-end segment, this becomes more and more important. I know that there was a testimonial, or like one of the webinars that I saw that you guys had done with a dealer in New Jersey. I think it was an Audi dealer that literally transformed their business, leveraging your technology. It's amazing, because nobody wants to deal with spending 6, 7, 8 hours in the dealership. So the consumers are going to like it. And I think that, watching this today, I think a lot of people maybe didn't even realize this was available, or, they've seen it at a smaller scale. But just like, with what's happening today with the brands that we mentioned, people are going to get used to, because we had the social distancing, we don't know how much longer that's going to last. But now we're taking vehicles to consumers' homes. We're doing virtual test drives. We're doing virtual appraisals. I think the consumers are going to start to like this, and it's going to become something that they're expecting. So I think that speaks to the amount of attention that you guys have had here in the past 3 or 4 weeks, because dealers realize that they have to adapt, that they were caught in a situation where their business was, in jeopardy because they didn't have this opportunity for a virtual showroom. And now finding more out about this, I think it's going to be great for the dealers, and then for the consumers, it's actually going to make the car buying process, less painful than what it's been.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, we've looked at comments from consumers, and we know that they're thankful. And look, consumers are rational human beings, just like the rest of us are, right? And they understand that dealerships and commerce in and of itself, and in the industry and the economy, is suffering right now. So they want to support local businesses. They want to buy vehicles from their local dealers, used or new. And we're able to see that. We're passionate about reading the reviews of dealers that are using our technology. And we love highlighting some of those things. And the thing that we have seen, probably in the last 30 days on some of these reviews that come in, is that consumers are not only stating the name of an associate that they worked with in the dealership and found them to be helpful and present and supportive during this, but really the consumers are using words, right? They're using language that says, hey, in these times, during this unprecedented era that we're in, we really appreciate what you guys are doing. So I think the consumer has a conscious mindset of knowing that it's hard to do business right now. Everyone's pivoting. I mean, my kids are probably going to walk in on this interview and I've got no control over that, right? So we're all in a less controllable environment, but I think people are super appreciative of that. And that goes a long way when we start coming out of whatever becomes, new normal in life.
So for the dealers that we have on this call, or people that are interested in maybe implementing this inside of their business, let's talk a little bit about what are some of the best practices if they do want to get into modern retailing. What do they need to do other than the fact of reaching out and having the technology that you guys have to get it going? But what does it look like from the start for a dealer that wants to adopt this?
Yeah, listen, I clearly have a badge of Roadster on my business card, and that's fine. But we fundamentally at this company believe in the rising tide lifting all boats. We whether or not you use our technology or just use a competitor's technology or any other technology out there, I think making sure that you buy into what you are looking to change, process, leadership from the top down, and then reaching out to partners like us or one of the other ones to help, right? I'm certainly going to unpack a couple best practices for you. I do want to, I don't want to plug, but I think, as people are listening to this, and I've been on many webinars this week, I want to give them a resource by going to roadster.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, we have a page that we quickly spun up called COVID-19 resources. And honestly, it's a place where dealers can go and see what other car dealers across this country are doing. Not only do we have marketing best practices, but what type of language should be using on your homepage? What type of responses? What are the type of videos that dealers are using today that they are distributing to their consumer base, those are all available. And let me unpack a couple of these things. I think sometimes in many industries, and especially in the automotive industry, I think we overthink the daylights out of this stuff, right? It's important just to sit back for a second and think to yourselves the hierarchy of needs, for the lack of a better term, right? Consumers today want to know if you're open. So make sure that you're telling them that. Maybe Google My Business, make sure you've updated your hours. Restaurants today, if you go on there, they're telling you, you can't come in for dine-in, but we're available for delivery. We're available for takeout. Well, car dealers need to let people know if you're open for sales and service and or parts. So we have examples of how dealers are doing that. Most dealerships have some sort of video assets of what they've already been doing. Sit in front of a camera, use a simple iPhone as a leader at your dealership and talk to your customers and just record something and state with a tone what's going on. If you're not open, let them know when you believe you'll be open. If you're open, let them know what you're open for. If you're open and able to sell vehicles, let them know how you're addressing their hierarchy of needs, right? Are we safe? How are we keeping things clean? We're using social distancing. Also, it's also good to let your local community know how you're taking care of your associates throughout this time. So we have just, tangible, direct examples of how every type of dealer, whether or not it's domestic, foreign, whether or not they're in large metros or in rural markets, what they're doing for their dealers. And then, stealing some of the ideas from our dealer partners or other dealer partners out there, I don't think there's any shame in that. I think it's actually a form of flattery. Some smart people have said before me, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah. And from our perspective, being a leader in the training industry inside of automotive, I mean, how do you see this changing what we know as the sales process or how deals will be facilitated inside of the dealership? What are dealers going to have to be prepared for around training their team to work with these sort of clients?
Yeah, it's a great point. To what we said earlier, right? I think I get in trouble for saying this every once in a while because of what we sell as a technology company, but 80% of what we do is probably change management, 20% is probably technology. And that's fair to say with whatever technology or assistance you're using. Look, like I said earlier, it has to start from the top down. You have to have buy-in from your leadership. You have to have buy-in from the organizational matriarchs, in a sense of knowing that this is a fundamental shift in what's taking place in the world. I don't know, I can't prognosticate to how much of the business is going to go back to walking in your front door, but I think all of us would head nod or agree that some of the business that was going to walk in your front door has changed over the next year or two. And so you've got to prepare for that. There's also, I've been listening to some of our own folks on other webinars and listening to the industry aside. I think dealers that have been using this for 2 or 3 years, let alone 6 months or even 2 or 3 weeks ago, are simply ahead of the pace of some of the dealers that are picking up this type of technology today. And that's just a facet of human nature, right? Change takes a little while. Making sure that you're focusing your efforts on the training that needs to take place, not only for today, but for the next several months. Because again, as we mentioned, we don't know how long this is going to last, but I'm pretty sure the new normal, whatever that might be, is something that we need to start planning for the next year or year and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on is that, with all the manufacturers today, I've seen that Chrysler is heavily, going to be adopting this technology with their dealers. Since the whole COVID-19 has come upon us, have you seen this now expand, pretty much throughout all the manufacturers, or what is that looking like?
Yeah, certainly. From my position at the company, I have some responsibility with the manufacturers, and I also have responsibility with our teams that are talking to the dealers every day. And we're seeing just a complete paradigm shift of what's taking place. I don't mean this out of turn. I think my teams and myself have spoken to every single manufacturer, major manufacturer in the United States and in Canada. If not this week, we've talked to them definitely over the last 2 weeks. And I think what these OEMs have realized is that this was a project, or this was a task, or this was an initiative that was on their plate. I think all of them have been thinking about this. But again, like that adoption curve have compressed, by necessity, they've all now expedited digital retailing platforms for their dealers to be able to utilize. They've pivoted funds to be able to use it for a co-op. They've created certified programs, and others have actually advanced the initiatives to take tier 1 traffic directly into tier 3 so that the consumer has an easier path. So on the OEM level, there's a lot more conversations, there's a lot more traffic, there's a lot more I think, effort for the OEM to really support their dealers in allowing the customers the ability to purchase in a manner that's open to them. And then on the tier 3 side, on the dealership side, we've definitely seen a spike, right? I don't know how sustainable this is. I don't know how long this will last, but the amount of dealers that we're talking to is the highest volume that we've ever seen in the 4-year history of this company. The sales rate has increased significantly also. And again, I think it's good. I think it's smart that dealers are reaching out and have come to the conclusion that they need the ability to let consumers conduct commerce in the manner that's available to them, and they got to do it right now. And I think by doing this right now, they're putting themselves in a position to be able to address this 12 to 18 month window that's ahead of us.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mean, they have a ton of white papers and information on roadster.com that you can check out. And then if the listeners have any additional questions, how could they contact you?
Yeah, if they go to our website, we've got multiple entry points, right? We have them based on dealers. They can certainly send an email to dealersales@roadster.com. And there's also opportunities on the Roadster website to request a demo. Our teams are pretty good right now. They're getting back to dealerships within a few hours, if not 24 hours. And just like everybody else, we're adjusting to the normal that we're in right now. And, we talk about some of these things in the automotive vertical directly, but I think it's super important to level this thing up and realize that this thing that we're dealing with, every other vertical, every other industry is dealing with also right now.
Exactly. And if any of you need any additional information on this, you can reach out to me at jeff@grantcardone.com. And I'd be more than happy to open up a conversation with you about how you can implement this into your business. And we're going to be developing a lot of content moving forward for those of you that do want to move forward and you need some guidance on what that looks like. We're definitely at Cardone Automotive Resources, future forward thinking, and we want to make sure that we have you well protected moving into the years to come. So we really appreciate your time today, Amit. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And again, pay attention to this. You can remember this interview today. The world as we know it is changing, and modern retailing is not going away. It's just going to be moving forward. Again, thank you for your time.
This is the 10X rule. The only difference between success and failure, the 10X rule is a discipline. Success is your duty.
Grant Cardone, he's an international sales expert.
Okay, there's a lot in this book, guys. I suggest you get it.
It's not 10 by itself, it's with the X, and the X is big.
I've been on Cardone University for 5 months now and already generated over $165,000 US.
Went from $0 to almost $5 million in net worth.